Hi everyone, welcome back. You're still with us here on the C Morning Show. We're now into the final hour of our program, which is leading us to our second discussion of the morning. And many of you are already aware that we may need to radically change the way we live due to the severe environmental challenges that we are currently facing right now, such as climate change. Now, this comes with a whole raft of social issues as well, including displacement of communities, food security, water shortages, and even health risks. Now, youth involvement is essential for every decision-making process that concerns our environment.
Yes, our actions have socio-ecological impact and our deeds have consequences as well, whether we see them or not. The choice to adopt a more eco-friendly lifestyle now rests with all of us.
All right, nowadays the youth, talking about you as well, not myself.
Well, youth is
I was a youth at one point. Anyway.
Paul is still very young to me, from my eyes.
The youth that began initiatives that are focused on climate education and tangible efforts that do yield positive societal impacts. And our next guest, who is the founder of Green Welfare Indonesia, which is a non-governmental organization under the patronage of the ASEAN Youth Organization. And she was also a part of the Indonesian delegation at COP28. Let's greet us this morning in the studio, Nala Amirah. Good morning, Nala. Thank you for being with us today.
Good morning.
Glad to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Great stuff. All right, so let's talk a little bit about Green Welfare Indonesia. Can you tell us a little about it and how it got started?
All right, so Green Welfare Indonesia is a non-governmental organization. We focus on eco-social action through environmental education, environmental action, and nature-based solution. So we focus on the areas of environmental sustainability and social sustainability. I personally believe that those two perspectives goes hand to hand.
Absolutely.
The health of the society depends on the health of the environment, and the health of the environment depends on how the society takes
like a
care of the
circle.
environment. It's a circle, and then we put economy in the middle, and how we kind of manage those resources together and provide both to the environment and to the society. Okay. So I started Green Welfare 4 years ago when I was 15.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Please? Yeah. Age of 15?
Yes, age of 15. Wow. It started 2020 in the middle of the pandemic. I saw that within my community, climate change was still a very unspoken topic, at least within my high school community. I know that, in a more young professional's perspective, I think climate change has been spoken for quite a while. Okay. But within my high school community, especially local, because I wasn't in an international school, no one was talking about the environment. And so I wanted to create a platform where young people could kind of understand and learn more towards global issues, specifically social sustainability and environmental sustainability. I wanted to build a platform where they could kind of explore their passion in these two areas and kind of ask themselves, what can I contribute? What are my privileges and skills that I can leverage to contribute to these two very fundamental issues in our community?
I think like organizations such as yours, if you look now, high school kids of a high school age are much more aware. Yeah. And I think this only began the last few years. So I guess it's platforms like yours that got this started.
Yeah.
Great stuff.
Apparently during the pandemic, a lot of them got started. Right. So as the founder of Green Welfare Indonesia, what do you think, Nala? That climate change is a social issue instead of just an environmental challenge?
Right. I think climate change itself, the consequences it has will affect the society. And we need to understand that climate change itself, or the environmental issues itself, we were the ones who created the problem in the first place. And it's up to us to kind of fix it up again. But I think the climate change gave us so much opportunities to kind of also reconnect with nature and understand specifically how these two areas interconnect, like what I said earlier. So I think, the society has a really huge role in preserving the environment because we take it for granted. We took it for granted, and it's amazing to see the momentum of realization. Yeah.
Okay, so speaking of realization, in order for people to take action, we do have to be aware of what the issues are, what's happening, what we can do about it. You mentioned education as one of the steps that is needed to take in order to implement this change. So how much of an impact is your organization's your organization educating others, having on this movement, and how do you think it's impacting the actual change itself?
So for green welfare itself, I think we first focus on awareness, and then once we kind of cultivated that awareness, we move on to the next step, which is theoretical knowledge. That's where we start to also escalate it to applications and practicality. So right now we have 4 programs. Our first program is community empowerment and our monthly distributions. That's where we actually go down to the communities and understand specifically how their living conditions are, and what are the problems currently they're trying to navigate.
Because each community faces different issues, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
It's not a one, the problem doesn't affect equally to all communities, and so we need to try to understand specifically in each region, and we focus on the Greater Jakarta for now, because all of our members are actually still high schoolers, and most of them are below 25. I remember when I just started at 15, there were a couple of my team members that were still around 12 years old,
really?
13 years old. And then there were also members that were 25. And then I had to see them being in one team.
That dynamic.
Right? And then I was there also, like, I didn't have I was learning by doing it, right? Learning by experience. So I kind of had to figure out, how do I really navigate the team dynamics within all ages. But one thing I realized is that once you have a certain passion, once you have a certain topic that you can have in common, once you find that common ground within the climate movement, just like what he said earlier, age doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's a shared vision, isn't it? If everyone wants the same goal.
Yeah, exactly. Once you have that common ground, animals lead by instinct, but we lead by values and idealism. So humans lead by idealism and values. And so once we have that common ground and values and about a certain topic, it's very easy for us to connect with each other. And that's what I learned as well in COP28.
All right. Yeah. We're going to talk about COP28 later on.
Okay.
But you told me you have 4 programs right now.
Yes.
Do you mind telling us more about it? Because, your organization encourages the youth to combat climate change. So can you please tell us more about your programs?
So we focus first on environmental education. It's the biggest program we have. So currently we create environmental curriculums, environmental modules, and environmental textbooks, and 3 of them are created by young people as well. And so we have our monthly programs of teaching using these 3 formats to formal and informal schools in Greater Jakarta. This year we're planning to work with the Ministry of Environment and the Ministry of Education to kind of understand on a bigger scale and credibility format what really needs to be taught, because right now our program is by youth and for youth, but then we need that credibility from governments and the older generation and that wisdom to kind of guide us and understand on a socio-economic perspective what needs to be taught and what needs to be learned. That's our first program, and our second program is our nature-based solution. So using nature to contribute both to the people and the environment. We do that through mangrove planting to villages that are most impacted, as well as our Wakaf hydroponic program. So that's more of sustainable agriculture.
Okay, so do you find that, I mean, this is very youth related. We do know that the future is in your hands as youth, but do you ever get any pushback when it comes to, hey, you're still young. I mean, what do you know about all of these issues, especially when you were 15 at the time? I mean, now you've aged a few years since, but nevertheless, do you get any sort of pushback or any sort of difficulties getting your point across or your point through, especially when you're trying to educate people?
Right. Yeah, of course. I get that pushback not only from like the older generations or officials, but also from young people itself, because I think from Indonesia itself, lots of young people still have a mental block within climate sustainability. Some of them only learn about the environment superficially. So just because they're mandated to,
Yes.
and don't actually try to find, the value and the real meaning towards environmental sustainability. So I think from a youth perspective, it's more of that pessimism of not understanding the issue and not knowing what to do. One common thing that I found within young people is that they know that the problem exists, but they're not willing to kind of learn deep down into it and act upon of it. But that's also because they have limited resources on how to do the how and the why.
Okay.
So I think that's one thing that I've been really finding out throughout my journey. For other pushbacks, I would say is that getting underestimated is something that's very clear, and that's why I said we've been acting independently for the past 4 years.
Yeah.
But this year, hopefully, we can leverage collaboration between private sectors as well as government officials, because back again, it needs a pentahelix approach.
Absolutely.
Yep.
We need collaboration. Every area has their own role in the climate crisis. We complete each other in a sense.
Absolutely, and having the backing of already well-established governmental organizations will certainly
Yes.
help that.
Exactly. So that's the plan for this year.
Yes.
The past 4 years, we've been working just independently.
Yes.
So
we
no
have.
collaboration whatsoever.
No, other than other youth organizations.
Just between the organizations.
Between the
that's
other youth organizations, we've collaborated a lot. We've collaborated, of course, with ASEAN Youth Organization, who I believe has been in the show as well. And other youth organizations that appeared from the pandemic, like what you said.
So, speaking of, being recognized or given credibility, one platform that has given credibility and a voice to the youth is COP28. So let's shift gears to that for a minute.
Let's do that.
Tell us about you having representation at Youth 28, you being part of that delegate. Tell us a little bit about the experience and what were some of the things that you covered, and how effective do you think the youth having a voice at a platform, at such an important platform such as COP28 is?
So for COP28, one thing I learned is that luck plays a big role, because I did not expect going to COP28 or become a delegation. So for context, I got the announcement just a month before COP28.
Really? Okay.
Exactly.
What was the selection process?
I was nominated for it, so I didn't know.
You were nominated.
I was nominated for
nice.
it. Yeah, so for context, I represented UN Women, UN Women Asia Pacific. I was chosen as one of their 30 for 2030 network. So it's a network for climate activists around the world with different issues. And so I was a part of their first cohort. And so they nominated me to present UN Women Asia Pacific, specifically for Southeast Asian, because we don't see a lot of young women from Southeast Asia being represented at COP. And so they nominated my presence there. So for my involvement in COP28, I mostly focused on three issues actually. First issue is, of course, gender and climate, how they interconnect, the role of young women, because I was representing UN Women as well. Second was, of course, climate education. I think I followed almost all of the climate education panels there. And fun fact, COP28 had its first its first education pavilion. So there was a pavilion specifically only for education, climate education. So I was really happy about that. And third, climate finance. Because currently I'm studying environmental economics and development studies in my bachelor's degree right now. So I wanted to kind of leverage my academic interests within the climate sphere as well by following the climate finance track, which was probably the hardest track because I didn't understand half the things they were saying.
And I would argue that it's the trickiest part. When it comes to climate change, it's how you're going to fit it in with the money side of things.
Exactly.
Because generally they're on opposite sides of the argument.
And there's climate law, all the regulations, all the big words that were spurred out in COP. It was my first time hearing a lot of them. And I also followed a lot of the presidential statements. And so I got to hear a lot about the commitments that governments are doing right now.
Oh, I assume it's a very fun and thrilling experience for you now, eh?
And one more fun fact is that COP28 was the first conference where I got to meet my online activist friends.
Oh, from
all this time.
Yes, from all around the world. So I've made a few very meaningful friendships from 2020, but of course because they were based outside Indonesia, I didn't get to meet them. And then at COP, I just randomly met all of them. Well, not randomly. Some of them I met coincidentally, and so I got to finally meet my friends, and it was just a very powering moment for all of us.
Yeah, especially you share the same values.
Exactly.
You have the same goal.
Exactly. Yeah, we felt like we were friends forever, but that's again, that's the first point of the climate movement. I think we all share the same values, so once we meet, it's like there's a shared connection that was already built in the first place.
Definitely time for a group selfie there.
Did you take a group selfie?
I did take
Of course.
Of course I took
So, Nala, you talk about getting your bachelor's degree right now, and correct me if I'm wrong, that you're currently studying that in Japan,
Yes, I am.
right? So, how do you actually divide your time and attention to run your organization here in Indonesia, but at the same time, you're chasing your bachelor's degree in Japan?
So I actually had to make a really hard decision before going to Japan, was that do I want to pursue a bachelor's degree in Indonesia where I can kind of still take care of execute green welfare, or should I pursue outside education? The thing is that the major that I wanted to study does not exist in Indonesia, and that's also what the ministries have been trying to push more in formal education. So, a better wide range of majors, especially in a social point of view. I feel like for in a more technical point of view of environment, there's a lot. We have mechanical engineering that focuses a lot on energy, but then we don't have a social science perspective on climate. And so I had to make that decision, and so I decided to pursue a degree on environmental economics and development studies in Japan. So we focus on environmental economics, community development, environmental policy, development economics, so everything that I'm very passionate about. And so it took a few months adjusting to the work-life balance. Right now, there's a new executive director in Green Welfare in Asia who currently fills my role in terms of execution. But I still, a good thing is that Japan is 2 hours ahead of Indonesia. Yeah. So when they have meetings, I'm usually always free because it's a bit later at night. So yeah, I think one thing that is the hardest is feeling left out, FOMO. If you guys,
want to be here ever.
Yeah, and I see all of my team just sending me pictures like, hey, we're doing our program, this. We wish you were here with us right now. And yeah, so I think that's something. But again, it's an investment. You got to sacrifice a few things for an investment in the later future. So. That's how I manage it so far, is just kind of understanding my priorities. I try to take my classes I try to take morning classes a lot. So at the evening and night, I focus on green welfare and my other activities.
Okay.
And yeah, it's a very big coincidence as well that just yesterday, we were finally registered legally as a foundation in Asia. It's a very big coincidence that I'm here. Yeah.
Congratulations. There you go. See today exclusive.
You heard it here first.
It took around 8 months to coordinate, the right team, over a year, the right team, and leveraging exactly what we want to do, our vision, mission. And finally, after that process, and while I was in Japan as well, yesterday we finally got announcement. The document came out that we're now officially registered. I hope this can leverage the partnership that I mentioned earlier with governments, because credibility is very important in social work. So yes.
There you go. And plus, on top of all of that as well, living in a country like Japan, who are very, I would say structured from a social perspective and economic perspective, there's a lot of lessons that can be learned for you as well, living your life over there while studying, in order for you to implement some of the things that you want to do.
I think it goes hand in hand.
Absolutely, I agree. So congratulations once again. If you guys want to find out more about Green Welfare Indonesia, the easy thing is to just go on Instagram. They're on there, and their ID is @greenwelfare.id, correct? correct?
Yes, correct.
Guys, get more in the know. You guys can also check out their website, obviously, at www.greenwelfare.org. Nala, we'd like to thank you for your time.
Thank
Best
you
of luck
so
for you and
much.
Green Welfare Indonesia in the future.
Thank you so much.
All right, we're going to take another short break here, you guys, but we will have more updates for you when we return here on the C Morning Show.